السلام عليكم خوتي، واش راكم؟ ان شاء الله تكونوا بخير. معكم Airdroperdz. اليوم راح نوريكم ان شاء الله فيديو مقطع صغير فيه 5 دقائق. اندريس انطونوبوليس هذا شخصيه مؤثره بزاف في عالم كريبتو. غير كيما دار لايف البارح برك لو 25 يومين عنده. دار فيه اسئله واجوبه على المباشر، الناس اللي عندهم اسئله يجاوبهم. اخر سؤال كان مهم، قلت بالك يفيدكم، ان شاء الله نفيدكم معايا، نخليكم تسمعوه. تسمعوا السؤال والجواب ديالو.
Alright, a slight change of pace. Let's do a quick economics question. Andrew asks, if Bitcoin is a store of value, why did it lose rather than gain value when markets crashed due to COVID-19? And why is its value only now starting to climb? Andrew, that's because Bitcoin isn't only a store of value. It has store of value characteristics. It also acts as a speculative asset for a lot of people. And how people see it and treat it determines how it behaves. So if you have the majority of the people who are invested in Bitcoin, invested not because they see it as a long-term store of value, but because they see it as a speculative investment, which is a relatively high-risk investment that will add some spice to their portfolio and send them to the moon, then Bitcoin will behave that way. And that will mean significant volatility, but it will also mean that Bitcoin responds to market sentiment more than monetary fundamentals. And that's exactly what happened. Don't forget that a lot of the people who are investing in Bitcoin as a speculative asset are doing so with disposable income, or they're doing so on the basis of leverage, basically margin trading, that they do by virtue of having very, very low interest rates that are created by enormous amounts of stimulus. What that ends up doing is it ends up correlating Bitcoin to the one factor that is the only thing driving most markets nowadays, and that's the Fed put. Basically, cheap money makes market go up. And that also means that cheap money from the Fed sloshing around in markets that don't have yield eventually sloshes onto the shores of Bitcoin as an area where desperate investors are trying to find yield, and that drives Bitcoin price. So number go up in Bitcoin also because Fed interest go down, to use the meme. The bottom line is that Bitcoin is not immune to brrrr from the Fed. They print money, they inject that money as a cantillon effect into the investor class. That investor class has extra disposable income. That disposable income can't be used to invest in things that generate yield because nothing's generating yield because everything's responding to the Fed. So eventually they switch to investing in riskier and riskier assets, and guess what? Here's this Bitcoin thing that sometimes is counter-correlated, most of the time is uncorrelated, and they pile money in to that, and guess what? That makes it correlated. And so that's exactly what happened with the COVID-19 crisis, which, by the way, don't want to say I told you so, but I kind of called it a couple months before it happened. When people were saying, will an economic recession make Bitcoin go up? The answer is really simple. At first, no, it will make it go down. And I'm going to make another call. We're going to see that happen again. I think that over the next couple of months, at least the U.S. economy is going to go off a cliff. The basic aspects of stimulus that are helping the lower and middle class to cling on desperately while they lose their jobs are being withdrawn. Instead, we're funding, absolute necessities like $740 billion into the Defense Department to bomb more people around the world. So as a result, when these stimulative measures diminish, I think the U.S. economy is going to fall off a cliff, basically. And the impact is going to be very, very dramatic. It's going to be a demand collapse. You can tell consumers to go out and buy shit all day long, and if they don't have any money, they're not gonna. And the bottom line is, when you see that kind of economic hit coming, it's going to hit Bitcoin too. In fact, it's going to hit the entire crypto market. Now, in the medium or long term, it's also going to cause a massive flight of capital. And as various governments try to stem that flight of capital and keep it contained in fiat, and crypto becomes a safe haven that cannot be contained, a lot of that flight of capital is going to end up in crypto more than before. And I think it's probably going to mean that we're going to see the price decorrelate from the broader economy as it acts as a safe haven. But this is impossible to predict. Both the timing and the magnitude are impossible to predict. In the meantime, understand that store value is one perspective, and it's a long-term perspective. And that doesn't mean that these things will not behave like very, very speculative, high-risk investments in the short term, which means you need to be very, very careful how you handle your money and how you diversify your investments. I think that's the last question. We've gone 58 minutes. We'll wrap it up here. I wanted to say thank you so much to everyone who joined. I can't see how many people are on.
راكم سمعتوا خوتي واش قال لكم. تكلم عن البيتكوين، قال لك يتوقع بالاقتصاد الأمريكي راح يسقط، ما بقالش بزاف ويسقط، والمام البيتكوين يزيد يطيح بزاف في البري، يهبط بزاف. قال بلي بعدها ان شاء الله هيكون كاين، راح يعاود يولي البيتكوين، لانه بالنسبه لهم هما يعتبروه يعني كانه يعاملوه كانه ذهب، ستور اوف فاليو. لكن كما قال ما يمكن، لا يمكن لاي شخص يعني توقع سعر البيتكوين وين راح يوصل، لا في هاد السقوط راح يكون قريب، ولا في الصعود. ان شاء الله الصعود 5 سنوات، ممكن سنة، ممكن سنتين، ممكن 20 سنة باش يصعد، واحد ما يقدر يعرف خوتي. هكذا. السلام عليكم، وما تنساوش بارطاجيو الفيديو. يعطيكم الصحة.